Welcome, everybody, back to another live stream. Let me zoom out a little bit. We're looking kind of crazy here. We're looking kind of crazy. All right, let me get some beats going. If you're joining this as a replay, man, how you doing? We're going to get right into this. We're going to dive into both sides, as usual. Let me get the beats rolling. Here we go. We need something to get us going a little bit, man. I'm really bright today. I don't know why. It's not bright in here at all. It's actually dark in here. I don't know what's going on. Detroit Sports Talk, I see you. What's up, man? We sound good? Making sure I sound good. Thing was glitching out on me, but I think we're cool. We got a big one. I mean, everyone's, I guess, a big one as we go forward here. Pittsburgh this weekend. We got to win them all. That's where we're at right now. We got to win them all, and then hopefully Green Bay handles business. For one weekend, I'm gonna root for them, man. Green Bay go handle business. It would be pretty poetic to have the season come down to having to beat Chicago in Chicago. I mean, that would be pretty fantastic. I think I would sign up for that. That'd be pretty amazing. It's a real possibility what we're lined up. We got to win these two games. Shoot, man, we lost to Minnesota. No guarantee. But I do feel pretty good about this Pittsburgh game. However, Pittsburgh surprised me a bit. I guess I should have expected this. Pittsburgh is a lot more downhill than I expected. I don't know what I expected with Pittsburgh. It wasn't that. It wasn't just like straight downhill. They kind of gave me really over our last two opponents, which makes this good. Like Dallas, very downhill with their run scheme. I kind of got some of those vibes thematically. I feel like there's more creativity than what the Rams brought to the table in terms of just run type. Rams obviously use pretty well. Similar to the Rams, they have great tight end blocking. They use a lot of jumbo package. I mean, they might have the best tight end blocking in football, this team. I mean, Washington is legitimately an offensive lineman for this team. So it feels similar from that perspective. They're going to go downhill. They're going to run the football a lot. But passing the football, it's the weirdest thing to watch. It's strange watching Pittsburgh throw the football. Everything is out so fast. It is like, what in the world am I watching? But it works. The consistency to pick up 7 yards by immediately just throwing the ball is crazy, but it works. It works all the time for this team. They don't really have to take shots. I mean, everything just balls out. Here we go. Crazy. So handling that again, similar to I would say probably the Dallas game where I was like, hey man, we could get beat on the checkdowns, and the Lions kind of took that away a bit. I mean, it exposes some things in the secondary for you, but I think in general that's kind of the idea. I think that's very similar again this week with Pittsburgh. That has to be the idea. Is like, we can't get beat on that. So some things are going to carry over, I think, pretty good to this game. Let me move my stuff around here. We're going to jump right into these plays. We're going to talk offense, defense, what's going on with Fox. Actually, there's a couple of injury things I think we should hit on before we get far into this. First off, being Christian Mahogany, because Christian Mahogany might play this weekend. I'm optimistic. We don't have the Friday report yet. It should actually be out soon. Usually those come out pretty early here. Walked Wednesday. They said they were feeling good about him. Dan said he was optimistic. He also was pretty clear that he wasn't going to play last week, and it felt really close from a fan perspective. But I'm optimistic this guy's going to roll. He also did say he felt like that's the best for them right now is kind of that rotation that they're doing at guard. Makes me wonder a bit if Mahogany did come back, there'd still be a rotation actually, because initially I was like, rotation, but maybe there is. Maybe he still kind of goes that route. Those guys were better this last week. Cologne wasn't great, but it was better. But I wonder if that would continue. Regardless, I did a list, and I actually want to go through this too. I did a list over on Bleacher this week, and it got me pretty fired up. I'll be honest with you, it got me pretty pumped up about our opportunities in right here. If we can get a little bit healthier, simply in a couple key positions, because this all connects together, especially after watching last night, watching Seattle. I know Seattle won that football game. I actually fell asleep before that thing hit overtime. But, dude, I'm going in and out. Hold up, make sure we're good. Wrong microphone. Test. Gave me a lot of hope because the Rams are really good. And I feel like the Rams should have won that game. That was one of the goofiest games I've ever seen. The Rams will probably be on the road in the playoffs, which is nuts. That team should not be playing on the road, but they're probably going to play on the road in the playoffs. Just get in, man. I'm like, dude, we got a shot, bro. We have to get in there. Watching Sam Darnold throw the football was like, dude, if we miss this opportunity to have this passing offense in the playoffs, it's going to be so disappointing. Oh my goodness, man. Can't let that happen. We cannot let that happen. But I did have this graphic. I want to go here first, and then we'll go to the preview stuff. This was good. This got me pumped up, and I'm gonna explain why. I think y'all are gonna buy into this when I explain this. victory. No, not that one. Hold up. Oh, wait, did I move it? Okay, maybe I moved it. I have the players written down anyway, so it's fine. So, Christian Mahogany, specifically, we can start there first. If he comes back this weekend, right, this could be the biggest swing player for us in general, right? This could be absolutely massive because the idea was he was going to start at guard anyway coming into the year. It was a little up and down. I went back and watched him, Christian Mahogany, because I'm like, I don't really remember what was going on with him. Mahogany played okay. You know, he had some problems when teams were blitzing, I thought. And I thought he was a little bit slow sometimes to redirect, and I think Pittsburgh's going to challenge him with that. But he was creating some movement. We know that he had some early losses, but I think especially where the rest of the O-line is getting to, now the big challenge this weekend could be Graham Glasgow. That could be a problem. Not having Graham would stink. That popped up on Thursday, so now we don't really know because we didn't hear since that time, so I have no idea. But if Mahogany gets back specifically, that could be the biggest change the Lions need. And it's also a big opportunity for Mahogany. Like, to me, right now, him playing could decide his future for the Lions. That's not to say, like, hey, he plays poorly or he's not really ready, and it's like, hey, he's done. He'll be here. But in terms of how aggressive the Lions are to address that position, could come down to what it looks like in these final few weeks. It's going to play a major role. They're going to address O-line regardless, but it could play a very major role to what the outlook is for Christian Mahogany. If he comes back, settles us down, clearly takes that job because I didn't think anybody really did when in his absence. Ooh, this could be huge. And it would be huge for him because he could really solidify himself because that's the expectation he's a starter going forward. Because I don't think right now that's the clear-cut expectation. So, dude, I'm pumped that we could get Mahogany back just because the opportunity is massive for him right now. He needs to get back. It needs to be great. And I hope he is. Thomas Harper is the other one, though. This is like the other one that needs to get discussion. Thomas Harper potentially coming back. Full participation in concussion protocol. I would think he's going to be on track to get back this weekend. When Thomas Harper gets back, though, the combination of him and Avonte Maddox, dude, that's going to change things. That's going to change a lot because I went back. Last game we saw Thomas was Green Bay. Thomas played well against Green Bay. He actually played pretty well most of the time that he was out there. But he kind of played that safety role at the time because Brian Branch was still available. So he did a lot of that work for us. Well, Avonte's kind of doing that now for us. And then Eric Hallett kind of filled into Brian Branch role, basically. But Hallett had a rough week last week. Man, if you get Thomas Harper back and you put Maddox into kind of that Branch role, which I think he's suited for anyway, not going to say it's going to be on that level, but those two together, if it works, could play off each other incredibly well, and I feel really good about the safety position. It would go from like last week where all right, Avonte's doing some good things here, and Alex really struggling. So all of a sudden, like, hey man, we might be in a pretty good spot. I think it could change so much getting one guy back in Thomas Harper. Plus, then you go to the certain matchups like the big touchdown week last week, tight end 101 with Daniel Thomas. Like, bro, things could change massively getting him back. So those two potential get backs. And again, this is also future outlook too because he plays well. Avonte shows that flexibility to now play a little bit of a different role and played well. They're going to have a future here. And like I said with Mahogany, they're all going to have a future here. So it's fantastic. Music's still playing. I got the music popping a little bit. If it's loud for y'all, I can turn it down. It sounds good in my ears. It's fired me up a little bit. I'll turn it down a little bit. But those two specifically, man, they could change life for us. They could change life for the Lions moving forward here. Now, outside of those two, the other players that I had written down here was Miles Frazier because he'll take some of those snaps. But it was specifically the other two. It was specifically Marcus Davenport and Ali McNeil. Now, I think you could throw tight end into this, but I'll be honest with you, I don't really know who's going to step up at tight end. Like, I don't really have a monster expectation for anybody to step up big time at tight end. I think it needs better, but I don't really. But those two, Marcus Davenport, Ali McNeil, Kelvin Shepherd was talking about, like, he knows that he needs to, take off a little bit, even though he hasn't been playing bad, he said, which I think is fair. Actually, like I said, I thought Ali McNeil had a solid game. I thought both those guys were in a good spot. And the way that Dan was talking about Davenport, like, those two are clearly the guys right now. And I think this is a good week for both of those guys, to be honest with you. One, it's going to be a challenge. That offensive line is good in Pittsburgh. They're strong. But also for a guy like Davenport and Hutchinson, you can get a little bit of wins on the outside. And he had Cook stepping in, left tackle. He was a practice squad player, played really well. But you're going to have that opportunity. And then on the opposite side, Trey Fatanu, that guy can get beat absolutely in pass protection. Great run blocker, can get beat. So good opportunity for both those guys to roll a bit here. And I bring up those two specifically. We know Liam's going to be here, but Davenport future-wise is going to matter a lot. But those two, I'm telling you, Daniel Thomas and Christian Mahogany could change the fortune for this team. And it's not an over-exaggeration, man. It really could. And again, it could offer what it looks like for those guys going forward. So I'm super optimistic from that side. The concern is Graham Glasgow, right? That's the concern right now. Yeah, no participation, dealing with the knee. That's the scary part of all of this. It's an awful time to have this happen. Now, yes, Cologne center, I can trust that. Fine, we'll be okay there. But I still think the impact that Mahogany would have coming back would be bigger, would outweigh the impact of losing Graham Glasgow in a game like this, especially as we go forward to the rest of these 3 games. We can handle business this weekend. All right, so there's that to start off with. Also, it does say Sione Vaki full, so I don't know what Sione's dealing with. It just says full, so I think he's okay. Vaki's been playing really well on special teams too. Vaki's been doing his thing. I'm pretty comfortable with him. I think the Steelers got some key ones, as you'll see as we go through this. They got some key injuries to keep an eye on. I don't know what Friday's going to look like, but specifically, Jabril Peppers with illness, he'll probably play. But specifically, Jabril Peppers has a very unique role in this defense. And at first I'm watching, I'm thinking, who is that? It's a big linebacker. Oh, no, that's Peppers. Okay, that makes sense. And he fits in really well with them. Nick Herbig's another one. Herbig's played elite football for them this season. An outside linebacker. He also no participation. Stay hammy. And their center, Zach Frazier, which, again, they've found ways to kind of rotate and replace guys this season. But he's another very good offensive. They got a couple guys on here. Left guards on here. Who stepped in a little bit at guard recently. We got a lot of guys on here. TJ Watt with Long. I don't know what that's going to look like. But regardless, there could be some big ones on their offensive line. And I guess this is where we're at in the season right now. But it could change a lot just because of the way that they play. Not much for the pass game, really for the run game specifically. Okay, with that said, let's jump into this. I think we got to everything there. Thought you didn't know. Hey, man, what's up? Hopefully it's not too loud. If it's too loud, I'll turn off here in a second. It'll probably get annoying to me. Here's Mahogany. They'll know more after today. Tristan Colon battling a wrist injury. Per Nolan Bianchi. Shout out to Nolan. Shout out to Nolan for that. Hey, that'd be awful. That would be awful. Oh, goodness. I don't want to go that route. But, yeah, the Mahogany one, man, like, I'm not completely sold based on the way Dan was talking about him, but he is full participation, bro. Get this dude back. Get him back, man. All right, let's jump into this. Let's go to this because this is good stuff, man. I think this is good stuff with this. I don't know which side of the ball we're starting on, so I'm going to throw clips. I don't have as many as last time. I didn't want to do that. I don't think you need them, to be honest with you. But instead, I have more notes, I guess. Well, not more notes, but we'll focus on notes a little bit more than the clips. But I do just want to showcase a few things that caught my eye when watching Pittsburgh, because I don't know a lot about Pittsburgh until this, so this is good stuff. But their defensive line, here's what I can say: I didn't realize how good Cam Hayward still was. Like, to the extent, and we had some great pressers from our coordinators. We're gonna add on top of what they said from Kelvin Shepard and Morton and kind of speculate what things could mean, because I think there's an interesting element with the changes that could be made here defensively, but specifically for the Steelers defense. The defensive line, Cam Hayward is outstanding. Specifically against run, he is outstanding, and it's to the point where I would look at it as, let's just run away from that guy. The only time I'm cool with really running directly at Cam Hayward is if he's at nose tackle. Otherwise, I want to stay away from him. The other guy, of course, you have to worry about if available is going to be TJ Watt. He has made his biggest impact in my eyes when you run away from him. When he doesn't get touched, of course, that makes it easy. So if you're going to run away from him, either get hands on him or run directly at him. Like, I think those are your two options. You run away from him, he's a problem. Or you have to really attach something off that backside. He's an issue. But it's Hayward's the guy that I would just circle and be like, let's get away from this guy. And then hopefully we find some wins on Keanu Benton, especially if there is no Graham Glasgow, because Benton, again, like that swing player. He's kind of the up-and-down guy for that D-line. That said, though, you can definitely find matchups up front. And it typically stems back to Yahya Black. That's a guy that I think has been very inconsistent from this series, a rookie out of Iowa, so it's understandable. But that's where I think you create a lot of movement. Their depth, to me, feels very shaky against the run, very shaky. And you see stints of, okay, you can push these dudes around a bit. It's like this. You'll see examples of that where you're like, all right, they're kind of moving them a bit. And I think it typically happens when they start to have to rotate. Like, Hayward's as consistent as they get, but outside of that, I think there's some hit and miss results they get on the interior. There's some good. Benton will do some good, but there's hit and miss there. And I think this is a good example of it with Hayward, forcing this thing outside. If he's at nose, I like going at him because he's I feel like he's a bit undersized there, but when he's on the outside, he's a problem. He's still moving well. He's doing all those things well. This is really cool. Linebacker Sean Dion Hamilton said the only person he's ever met works hard as Campbell is Minka Fitzpatrick. Look at that. Minka with the Dolphins, too. Hey, Minka Fitzpatrick. All right, and I just want to throw a couple of these examples here. Like I said, I don't have a ton of these, but I look at this as, number one, I think this is a very good game for Jahmyr Gibbs. And I look at it like that because I think that if you make some guys miss, you can really pop some of these runs. So I know the last few weeks we've been talking about Monty a lot. I expect a big game for Jahmyr Gibbs. If this run game is going to cook, I think it's going to be behind Jahmyr Gibbs specifically. So that's the first expectation from what I've seen. And then second thing, again, you can create some movement here with the stretch run. You can see it, you get downhill. Their linebackers are also on the smaller side. So if you do get to their linebackers, you have a real chance to get explosives, which is kind of the challenge there because they get a field, they can create negatives. But if you avoid that like Gibbs could, you can really create explosives up to their backs. Malik Harrison's a great athlete. Patrick Queen is, of course, a great athlete. But if you can get to them, you're good. Now, I want to get to the more interesting element, which is their coverage. This, to me, is the interesting part. And John Morton kind of expanded on it this week, which is good. And specifically, we'll start here at cover 3. This is a lot of what they do. They played it different against Miami a little bit. They were a little bit more shell coverage. So they were a little bit more deep, a little more quarters, kind of stuff like that. But against Baltimore, they were much more single high. Now, that's usually how people play Baltimore, so there's no surprise there. But the way that they played is different than the Rams did, right? Rams were matching a lot of things, as you mentioned, high spot dropping. That said, though, too, on top of it, what I also focus on, there's 2 unique parts that I focus on with this cover 3 defense. First thing being your safety play, that free safety. He is aggressive. If free safety plays aggressive, he will dive. It makes you think, hey, maybe we can get something over top. That is possible. You're definitely going to have to set that up by attacking the sidelines early. I think that's the first play that you point to is how can we get to the sidelines against these guys and attack these corners because of how aggressive that is stepping down into coverage. That makes their cornerback play with a ton of depth. They play very over top heavy. So you're going to open these kind of looks to snap off your route, get open, and you can see it here against Joey Porter one-on-one on the bottom, the separation that you can create against these guys. Also, the other element that makes this really interesting to me is the amount of simulated looks they do out of it. There's a lot of dropping defensive linemen, TJ Watt in the coverage. Now, Watt cooks his man here, so that forces a scramble. There's a lot of that, too, is how they play this. There's a lot of simulated looks, and the biggest X factor is going to be, and I think he's coming up with 2 plays here, it's going to be Jabril Peppers and how the Lions decide to go at him. And I'll show you why in a second, because it'll make sense in a second here. Again, same idea defensively. Again, kind of a simulated look. You get a late rush from the linebacker. And again, it's cover 3. They tend to, and this is why I wanted to point them out. You can see at the top of the screen how fast they got to the flat. You see how well Bateman, I think it's Bateman, is covered up here on that out route. It's not open. You know, usually that free look cover 3, they hit the sideline. He's not open. Number 40's flying under there. I'm thinking this is a linebacker. I'm like, who in the world they got? Who is this guy? This guy's big and he's fast. It's Jabril Peppers. So it's kind of their, I don't know, there's their sub linebacker, right? When you go heavy, they'll put him in, and now he can still add coverage, but he kind of looks like a linebacker for him. But when he's in the game, he takes away the sidelines and he gets a lot of depth. So it's almost to the extent of just go the opposite way of Peppers. Because if you look at the bottom, they'll have guys like Watt dropping into coverage. Again, they're athletic at linebacker, so they can really run around from hash to hash. But if you can get outside of that with guys like Watt into coverage, that's where your openings will pop. Or you look inside of a guy like Peppers in a case like this, right? But they simulated. Peppers gets out there. He's going to force you to go back inside. So it's a cool little unique wrinkle, I think, that they have to their defense. And I think the other element that's similar to what we saw last week against the Rams, and Lions handled it well, so it gives me optimism. Defensive back blitzing. This is a more aggressive team on third down. I don't know what the numbers say about them blitzing on third down, but they definitely tend to have a little bit more aggression kind of in their back pocket on third down. They're not afraid to get after you, not afraid to bring extra bodies. A lot of times it's a 5-man rush, but specifically it comes from their defensive backs. It usually gives teams challenges. I think the Lions handled it really well last week, and in the past they had it, but I thought they handled it really well last week. Now, we'll look at some of their man coverage stuff, because as Moore pointed out, they will play man, and there's a couple of keys to this too. Number 1, Echols at slot is pretty darn good. If you just look at the names, you might be thinking, hey, man, Joey Porter, stay away from him. Go to Echols, right? Go to Brandon Echols. That's probably the guy. No, I wouldn't go there a lot. Now, if he's on Saint, sometimes you just will regardless. But to me, communication's strong. We'll see it here on this over route. Communication's pretty strong here. And Echols has done a pretty nice job in coverage 101. Where you find the weaknesses are kind of obvious. Safety play. Now, they have Ramsey. Ramsey will blitz too. He's another one of their DB blitzing. But a lot of times, it's Chuck Clark who gets these safety assignments 1-on-1 when they go cover 1. Here, they're cover 1 blitz. They'll do that a lot. And he's the guy that you want to go at. And the fact that the Ravens were able to create this look by just a motion pre-snap across the formation, force the bump, then all of a sudden you get a safety on Zay Flowers. Like, if we can take advantage of that, you absolutely have to. He is the guy that you want to go at 1-on-1. I think very clearly you want to go at 1-on-1. And we'll see it right here again. They handled it pretty well. They bump it off. They take away this crossing route. The Echols in coverage does a good job underneath on Flowers. But the guys you want to go at are typically going to be their safeties one-on-one. Not as much as him from the slot. I just wonder if Saint's going to get that matchup a lot because obviously when he does, they kind of just I feel like they overlook some of that stuff. They're like, oh, whatever, he'll get open. But you can see, like, look over the middle of the field here. Look at the separation that's great. Their tight end's open. The drag's not. Tight end's open. The drag's not. You can see that. So that's kind of the overall thing I wanted to hit on with the Steelers. We'll go to a couple different looks because, again, they played Miami a little differently here before we get to some of the notes. But they did play them a bit differently. Again, a little bit more too high stuff. They do have a lot of Tampa 2 in their back pocket as well with what they do in coverage. And I think the biggest element to this that stands out is their linebacker play. They are very athletic at linebacker, as pointed out. Malik Harrison in this game, Patrick Queen. I think the downside for them is they can be baited. So it's that balance of they're going to fly around. They might go outside of what their assignment is. So it's not as easy as like, hey, just run a seam route and he'll leave. It's not that easy because they're going to move and bounce. So they can be dangerous, but at the same time, they can be baited out of plays, I believe, underneath like this. So it's Patrick Queen up to a seam route to the middle of the field like this because he's going to try to bounce in coverage. So if you get your spacing correct, you might have an opportunity to do things like that, put them into conflict. So do we need to root for the Bears or Green Bay? I'm rooting for Green Bay. For me, division's out of the picture. We were swept by Green Bay. So I'm rooting for Green Bay to win this game. The fastest and most easy path will be just getting a shot, I think, with Green Bay with Chicago at the end of the year for a playoff spot. So I'm rooting for Green Bay to handle business. That puts the Bears at 10-5. If we can win, we'd be at 9-6. That put us within a game. If we can stay within the game by that final game, the final game is going to make the difference because we beat them once. So I'm absolutely rooting for Chicago. If we would have won last week, I think I'd be kind of open-minded on whatever happens here because maybe there's a path to getting this division. But at this point, I'm not there anymore because Green Bay lost to Denver. But at this point, I'm not really there anymore just because of the fact that we lost. So Graham Glasgow is turning towards missing Sunday's game. Don't bring that news to me, man. Don't bring that news to me. Don't do that to me. Look, I'm trying to get excited. You know what I mean? We're having good energy. You got to hit me with that. I don't even know if that's real news. You're just, all right, it's fine. It's fine. We're good. We're good. No, that probably is real news, which stinks, but I'm glad you brought that up. We're going to have to be prepared for that. We're going to have to be prepared for life without Graham Glasgow, which does stink. I mean, I like Graham Glasgow. I do. I know he gets a lot of hate, right? But it's like you put expectation into context. I like Graham. Graham, you know, he be calming the waters a little bit for us. He ain't great, but he'll calm the waters a bit for us. Okay, here's the other thing I want to show about this Tampa 2 stuff because, like I said, they're linebackers. They're bouncing. They're going to fly around in coverage. They're going to do all those things. But where they're susceptible, it's kind of just a general note for me with these guys. It's safety. And we saw it in cover 3, right? Their safety's going to play aggressive. Free safety is aggressive, so you can attack the outside corners. Here in Tampa 2, this is a very straight-up beater. An up route by Zay Flowers, a seam route here takes the safety, and you can see, look at the outside. If Lamar sees this, it's a monster play. There's no chance the safety's getting back to this play. And I think part of this comes back to the element of their linebackers bounce. Right, they're not going to just take that seam immediately and take it away. They're going to move. They're going to have their eyes lurking. So it puts more stress on the safety. So now safety steps down, takes away the seam. That receiver on the top of the screen is wide open, and he's not getting back to that route if Lamar sees it. So if we can just give ourselves a chance, there's going to be beaters there. There's going to be beaters. You want Green Bay to win. Either of those teams have to lose 2 or 3 games. Lions have to win all 3. Well, not Chicago, right? Chicago doesn't have to lose 2. I guess, yeah, technically they do. I'm not counting our loss. You're right. But the only difference is we get to play Chicago. So at least it's in our favor. At least it's in our favor. I feel like Green Bay's schedule, they're not going to drop 3, right? Like, I don't think it's going to happen. I guess if they lose to the Bears, then maybe. But do we think it's going to happen? Do we think even if they lose to the Bears, they'll drop another one or 2? They're pretty easy, aren't they? Baltimore. I think they're going to beat Baltimore. Minnesota. I don't know. Maybe. All right, here's what we got to root for. Here's what I'm saying. Packers this weekend. Packers lose their last 2. Now we're cool. Hey, now we're playing football. All right, now we're on to something. Williams is a start in fantasy this week. Good question. I'm curious if Pittsburgh has something unique because Pittsburgh has played 2 teams very differently. And it's been successful for them based on who they're seeing. So part of me is a little bit hesitant on that. I kind of like the role players this week. But I would say I would probably lean J-Mo over Saint from the perspective of I think coverage-wise from what I've seen, I think Jameson has a better opportunity to exploit their coverages than maybe what St. Brown does. Because I do think he's just going to hit windows and he's going to stress the heck out of their corners and he's going to probably force them to play a completely different styled game. So I like J-Mo. I like that. Now, look, anytime you go with me with fantasy advice, understand I'm not good at fantasy. All right. So I'm saying that. Okay. I don't know if I'm giving you advice before it hit. If it did, hey, that's what I'm talking about. If not, maybe like I wouldn't be surprised. All right. I'm not great at it. Okay, well, let's leave that there for a second. And I want to go to the graphic I have for the Steelers defense, and then we'll go to their offense here in a second here. But this, man, I'm pumped right now because I see the opportunities. Like, and tell me if I'm the only one, Pat. Yesterday, watching Seattle play the Rams, watching Seattle be down by 16 in that game, have the goofiest comeback of all time, made me look at, and even though Seattle won, the Rams are the better football team. Like, in my eyes, they're definitely the better football team. And it got me excited. It's like, dude, if we can just get in, we're going to be a problem right now, bro. Because Sam Darnold and that offense, they can't throw the football. Like, if they need to, I don't trust that at all. I trust our team, though. I trust us to be able to throw the football. We look way better than that. They made them look like the best defense in football. Shoot, way we're playing, man. Better than that. Come on now. Not to talk mock drafts, but they got Lions picking up Mason Thomas. Hey, man, nothing wrong with talking mock drafts. Check out Dose of Draft. I actually dropped my first mock draft yesterday, so definitely go check that out. I dropped it yesterday. Now, it wasn't a Lions mock. It was just an NFL mock. The Lions' first pick was in there. There's going to be a lot of edge rusher options for the Lions if they want to go. There's going to be a lot of them. I think Styles going to make the fight for the Lions there. I think and our Mason Thomas could be that. If you're just looking for real juice off the edge, Styles are going to make the fight, I think, for what the Lions would want there. But there is going to be a lot of options. And hopefully they're not sitting as high as they're sitting right now. But if they're sitting where they're sitting right now, they're going to have their pick of probably like 6 guys that they could take a swing on. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be multiple options. They can move it up and down the board there. They could jump up a few spots if they really love somebody. They can move back and still grab somebody. They're going to have a lot of flexibility sitting middle of the pack. I just don't want to sit there, right? Like, I would rather not be in that spot. But it would be a good spot to be in based on the sense that we had to give up what we had to give up this year to go get Tesla. It would be a good spot to be in. I just hope it's not the case. All right, real quick, let me go to this graphic. It's kind of like what we did last week. I won't spend as much time on this. But a few things that stuck out with the Steelers defense. Again, you're seeing the coverage differences. A couple of things. Go at Joey Porter in cover 3, as mentioned. We talked about Peppers getting behind their linebackers in play, right? Really stressing behind the linebackers, putting their safeties in conflict. That's going to open up your sidelines. So you got to use the sidelines against cover 3. And when they go too deep, I do like screens against them. I always want to make their DBs technical because I just don't trust them as much in that asset of the game. Man coverage, I want to go at Chuck Clark as much as possible. And when they're too deep, this is a good opportunity to really get that underneath passing attack involved. St. Brown should feast, I think, in that spot because that slot area, if you have time, is going to be there. But because of the speed that they have, middle field could be a little bit more difficult. So I think you just got to create a little bit better spacing, get yourself outside a little bit because they're going to fly around. You really have to do a good job with spacing. You're going to have to hit some tight window throws. But I think it really opens up opportunities to say, hey, man, if we can get good spacing, we can get explosives off of this because they're going to give us this. They're going to fly around. They're going to pull themselves out of spots, and we're going to have a chance to get big plays. Defensively against the run, a couple of things. You can have success against these guys rushing the football. Now, it's not to say that they're a bad run defense. They're very good, but they're not, to me, the Rams level. But you can have success against them. I've seen teams kind of lean into it. As mentioned, I would stay away from Hayward. If you could stay away from him the most part, you're probably going to be in a pretty good spot. You should create some movement up front. I don't think you have to be overly complex, but I do think that this is a Jahmyr Gibbs game in general. I think we hit on kind of everything that's here. The simulated pressure looks, we hit on everything there. Let us move on to the next element of this. Do we trade Montgomery? I think we absolutely should trade him. Hold up, let me go back. We should trade Montgomery. Running backs are highly favored today. Man, I don't know, man. I mean, look, I wish you would pass protect better, to be honest. I don't think that's been great this season for him, but I still love Montgomery as a runner. I get the question. I don't have an issue with the question because I do get it, especially with where his snap counts are. I don't know where the Lions are at on Vaki like I am with Vaki. Like, I would be pretty confident, I think, with Vaki being running back too. I don't know the Lions are there with him. Makes it tough. What would Montgomery realistically get you back? With where his contract's at, right, I think next year's his last year. Maybe he has 2 more. If he has 2 more, he might give you a little more. He's not the cheapest back either. What, maybe a 5th or 5th? I think a 4th would maybe be the highest you could get. Maybe a 5th for him. Would that be worth giving him up? It's a good question. I don't know. It's something to consider, though. Traded for Henderson? Oh, shoot. Well, Henderson's going to be a free agent after this year, right? Like, he's don't think they gave him an extension beyond this season. So unless they do it in the offseason, I'm pretty sure that he's just going to be a free agent. Right now, maybe they'll tag him or something, and then he can have that conversation. But as of now, I don't think. And obviously, financially, it wouldn't help you a ton there because Henderson's going to be a lot more expensive. But I get what you're saying. I hear what you're saying because it would alleviate a little bit more. But yeah, I think he's set to be a free agent. So I guess that would be more in their court than anything. Also, straight up, I don't think they'd take that because they do. I think they do really like the fact that they have. So I don't think they would do that straight up. You'd definitely have to throw some stuff on top of that to make that go down. All right, let's get to the Steelers' offense a little bit. They can run the football. This offense line is legit. Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, Isaac Suimola. I don't know how to say his name. I'm just going to say Isaac. All right, left tackle, you're seeing 60. That's Cook that stepped in. He played well. Fatanu at right tackle. And they'll utilize a lot of jumbo. They'll get Anderson in there to kind of lead block a bit for him. And you're going to see that they can prove it. Now, they can have real losses, too. I think McCormick is the guy that I focus on as maybe the most hit and miss on that offensive line, just from charting against run specifically. Like, you can find some key wins there against McCormick, and I think we have to in this game. We have to find some key wins. But their tight end play, their extensions, it's not even just the front. It's so much stress that they put on you with their tight ends and the jumbo package, and specifically their running back play is pretty darn good. Jalen Warren's legit. Kenneth Gainwell's a problem. Kenneth Gainwell, hey, hold up real quick. This year, guys that I've watched, he's got to be near the top in like the most underrated player I've seen. Kenneth Gainwell's a problem, dude. Like he's legit. He fits perfect to this offense. He's perfect for all the underneath passing. He's good as a running back. He's a really good running back, man. Kenneth Gainwell's awesome. Just from the games that I've went through, I'm like, yo, this guy is not getting any conversation. This dude is an absolute problem. And the running backs are really good, man. They take advantage of cutback lanes, similar to what Blake Corum did, but he has a lot more juice. I say he's a lot more in space kind of juice than what we saw last week. We'll go back to this rushing attack here. Let's go outside zone. You see the movement right to the left side. I will say specifically, I think they lean a lot on that right side line. A lot of their cutback runs come through that right side of the O-line, as we're seeing like this. That's where they find a lot of upward success. Get to an inside zone. They're going to attach an RPO to it. Again, here, you see the movement that they create up front, but now notice right through that right side of the O-line. And again, who's behind? It's behind their big tight end, Washington. That's his name, right? Washington, the Georgia kid. Right behind him. And these guys steal. They are hard to deal with, and he finds it, right? There's not a lot of penetration that teams get into the backfield, so it gives him an opportunity to find it and get going. Based on his stature, I think if you hit him early, you're going to shut down runs. That's probably true. Problem is, hitting him early is a very difficult challenge against these guys. So again, our defense line is going to be stressed again this week. Now, we're going to have some specific schematics that I want to talk about, but let's get to this passing attack, because I promise you, this is the most check down heavy offense I've seen by an absolute mile. It's not even close. Everything feels like a check down. But that's not a discredit for them. It works for them. It works for them. It works for their personnel. I think it's actually perfect for their personnel. They legitimately have one real wide receiver one, and everybody else is kind of just a role piece. So it makes sense. I mean, this was the offense that they run, and it's like, okay, this works for everybody. And Rodgers does it at an elite level. Here, run pass option. Flat steps in. You get to the flat. Here we go. And I think this was one of their first cover 3 looks that we get to, and they're just taking advantage of it here. Nothing crazy about it. Here's what I would say. Last week, we talked about the tight end screens, right? And then Hutch picked it. This week, I would give a very similar message. Edge rushers, be ready for a flat pass. Knock one of these down at the line. Jump out into the flat. Maybe I'd occasionally put him on a design into the flat. Like, this is going to be a huge part of it. And even times, instead of pass rushing, I would have that in mind. Like, if they go drop back pass, the ball is going to get out in probably 2 seconds. Probably 2 seconds. It's going to be Rodgers will very quickly determine, do I want to take a shot or do I not? And because of that reason, whenever I've seen that check down not there, things have gone flatline for this offense. But that's never really the case. And they do a lot of what Chicago did last year against us, where they'll leak out their tight end and they'll have the running back swing behind it. And it's just a design screen. But it doesn't have to go that direction. But it's just a setup that they can lean into whenever they don't feel it downfield. And it's very difficult to deal with against zone coverage, because you have an extra blocker against the zone coverage that typically is only occupied by one body if you're not in man. So they do a great job with that. And that's one thing that I would absolutely put in these guys' minds, is like, we have to be prepared for that specifically. All right, another cover 3 look here. Again, very quickly makes a decision. Some of this isn't even schematic based for me. It's just as simple as discipline. It's simple as discipline for this defense. Right, we're going to the flat here. This is something that Stafford stresses with. I actually think we handled it pretty well for the most part. He no-looks guys. He rips some windows. I think our safeties handled it well. Well, this week, it's about the flats, about Barnes, about the safeties rolling down, whatever type of – and we're going to talk about – I think coverage types are going to change a bit this week based on what Calvin said. But specifically, if you are in charge and responsible for a flat in coverage, you cannot start fading. You cannot start floating. Oh, he's not looking at me. I'm going to kind of go do my own little thing. That ball is going there. It's going there. So be there, because that can't happen. Extra 3 yards for no reason cannot happen. It's got to be taken away. And he will put that over and over and over. Now, I also don't love blitzing Rodgers either, because I think he's handled it pretty well against zone. Here we get a cover 3 zone blitz. They lose another defender. It's easy. Seam curl, pulls them out of the play. That's 10 yards. And they will live on 7, 8, 10 yards. I mean, they almost never go backwards. If you get them to go backwards, fantastic. They don't have a ton of big plays unless you go man coverage and they just go a one-on-one pass. But against zone, they will live in this all game long. They have no problem with it. This is their offense. They will do this all game long. Now, when you're in man, there's a plus and negative. Plus, defensively, there's like a 90% chance this ball is going immediately to DK Metcalf. If you're in any kind of cover one, the ball is probably going to DK. There's a very good chance that's where he's looking. Now, here I think, yeah, this one is to DK. That's probably where the ball's going. Now, the downside is DK is really good. And because Rodgers is so decisive to say, oh, single I'm just throwing it at him, he throws some really good balls because there is no hesitation for him to put it out there. So for the Lions, you're going to have an opportunity to know, we just got to slow that guy down. Make literally anybody else beat us, but how do you do that with single high? How do you do that, knock it out leverage? Obviously, the most simple idea is just roll your safety over top of him. Roll your safety over top of him specifically. But that's the key. Now, here in this case, I don't think they actually get to go to him here. They kind of go to this little drag underneath. And I was surprised. Rodgers does do some broken play things. I didn't think I'd see any of this. He does create a little bit off script. Much more than I expected. Again, you're seeing it right here. Single high coverage. Immediately. The safety's cheating there. Immediately. Ball's out. I'm throwing the fade. Look at this ball. Gosh, man. That's a dime. Again, red zone, single high. I immediately throw the fade. So we got to be up to that challenge. We have to do that challenge. But it also kind of makes the expectations pretty straightforward of what you're probably going to get if you do things like that. Now, here was one of the best play design. And I need to focus on this play because, to me, from the Steelers' perspective, this was I don't know. I loved this because of the way that they play offensively, for them to just go to this little wrinkle, and it smoked the defense. This is a 2nd down and 15. I think it's a 2nd and 15. And you're expecting, like, all right, they got to get some yards back here. So they may go underneath, right? They're going to get their yards back. Look at how they go about getting these yards back, bro. I had to smile watching this. Like, that's pretty darn good. That's pretty good. So every time, as mentioned, you're going to have that tight end. He's going to leak. He's going to lead block for the back, and they'll check it down if Rodgers doesn't like it. So here, cover 3, they're deep here. Hey, they're safety sitting on the stick depth. Everybody's deep. Rodgers sees that. Immediately, he's like, I'm going to check it down. But instead of setting the screen, the tight end leaks and then steps back to the middle of the field. Watch this. Oh, my gosh. I loved it. I was like, that's awesome. 12 yards. 12 yards on that. That's not a bit of 12 yards. What am I watching here? This is their offense. But because they have DK, it works. Like, legitimately, if they didn't have DK Metcalf, I think this offense would be atrocious. But they do, and it's like you have to deal with him because he will just beat you up one-on-one all game long. It's like, it works. And then again, the running back play is pretty darn good, as mentioned. And this is one I think McCormick lost that block, but it's specifically, oh no, McCormick's going to lose this block. But it's specifically that right side of the offense line. They're going to lean on. They're going to get explosives out of it. All right, we're going to go to the graphic here for a second. Why would we trade David? Please stop with the nonsense. Well, hey man, look, if you told me what the offer was, now we can have a conversation. You know what I mean? I'm open to having conversations, but I'm always open to whatever. But I don't think, I definitely don't think it's going to happen. She loves JD. How you doing, JD? All right, here we go. I assume that's, I don't know if that's, are you she loves, or you JD? Okay, let's go to this. Let's go to the Steelers offense here for a second. Okay? Rushing the football, you can see it in the middle. They do run the ball well, but you can see where they lean. So they are inside zone. They don't do a lot of duo stuff, not a lot of strong double teams, right? So I'm not going to slow the game down. They want to get to your backers. They want to get to your backers in a hurry. Single blocks, we're going to get upfield. It's a lot of that. Eventually, they'll pop them. And I think the inside zone, what it does is it opens the room for much more creativity behind their backs. It makes the reads a lot less tunnel vision, and it's much more feel it, see it, bounce. And they're much more open to doing that. So Kane's going to be massive into this, and it makes their tight end so involved because instead of like, hey, backside just sealing their block, right? We're just creating double teams on that right side. Like, they have an opportunity to get up, and they can allow the running backs to kind of get some freedom And that's mainly who they are. That's almost everything that they do. And again, they'll go to some Anderson as kind of a lead blocker, and that'll change things up. Now, coverage-wise, what do we like against these guys? Well, here's where I go back to what Kelvin Shepard said today. And this was one of the most interesting things that he said, I think, this season. And he talked about how really specifically putting their cornerbacks in a position where, okay, we can help these guys out, vertically. Maybe we change some of the techniques that we do. I'm not going to be hard-headed. Made it sound like man coverage was kind of an issue, even though I thought they actually did pretty well when they did man. They were blitzing last week. He talked about that specifically. And it made me think about this, because then he told us this. He said, I think teams are coming out. He said, I think teams are coming out with 2 plays at the line of scrimmage. And based on their shell, they're going to a specific play. And as soon as he said that, now there was no check at the line visibly here, but as soon as he said that, I immediately thought of this play. We watched this play together after the game. And I'm going to show you why I point this play out. Because to me, this is something that we have talked about. We've talked about it from the perspective of one, I've said this before weeks ago, I don't think the Lions disguise that well in coverage. They're pretty straightforward. You kind of know what we're doing, which is why we're, I think, at our best playing fast, because it's not like there's a ton of confusion. I think a lot of times we're pretty straightforward unless it's third down. Then we disguise pretty well. But I'm going to talk about where I think the disguises could show up this week and where it could be effective based on what I've seen for the Steelers, because the Steelers have gotten beat by it. And after seeing it, put 2 to 2 together, I'm like, wait a minute, Calvin might be on to something here. So this play right here, we all watched it. We're like, what's going on? Gives this 40-yard completion to Puka. Now, there's no check visibly here, but there's a short motion. Lions are in a shell coverage. They get Tampa 2 exactly what it looks like. There's no confusion with this at all. You can even see it by our spacing. There's nothing here that tells you this is not what this is. But the problem that the Lions fall into is it's an early down. I believe this is a 1st down and 10. Third down, they disguise these things. First and second, rarely disguise these things. They are very straightforward. So for the Rams side of things, it looks easy. They just run 4 verts, basically. They take the seam and the backside seam's open. It's that simple. Bam, 40 yards. And I see that, and I'm hearing what Calvin's saying. And then I go back to what I watched again, for the Steelers, and I think I have the play. Let me double check. I think I saved the play. I'm hoping I saved the play. And if I didn't, I'll talk about it and I'll find it. All right, I'll find it eventually here. But what I witnessed for the Steelers, and actually I have it on the graphic, so I'll go there first. The Steelers got hit with a 1st down and 10, and I spelled it wrong. Tampa 2 inverted look, and it turned into an immediately incomplete pass. It turned into Rodgers turning around, running away from the play, and immediately throws an incomplete pass. That's what it turned into. He looked lost, flustered. That's the kind of thing that the Lions don't really do. They don't really do that. And as I'm hearing that, to me, it makes me think of this. He's talking about having trust in his guys. Here's what I would look at tweaking for the Lions. If you think teams are playing based on the shell that you come out in, and you're very predictable with it, and it's like, hey, teams are just going text on this. I think truly, because the Rams do this really well too, I think the best way, and you see at the bottom there, Tampa 2 invert incomplete. I think the best way to simplify, in a simple way to make it create more confusion, is just start inverting coverages / cloud coverages. And I think this is the perfect game to do it because you have DK to deal with. What do I mean by that? So inverting from the sense of we come out in a single high defense, right? We're single high. We got 1 deep safety. We got 2 corners on the outside, right? Vision that with me. At the snap, and teams will do this, you immediately invert it. So that cornerback becomes your safety. Safety in single high rolls over top. Player underneath gets to the flat. Now we're Tampa 2. But we came out in a single high shell. That's the kind of thing the Lions never really do. And I saw a team do that to the Steelers, and immediately it was probably the worst looking play I've seen from the Steelers from any play I'd watched to that point. It looked bad. Like, he looked to the left, saw the guy leak there, didn't want it, turned around, ran, and just kind of threw it away. And it was like that kind of stymied him a bit. And I think when you're dealing with Rodgers, I came in expecting like, oh no, you don't want to try to disguise stuff, right? You're not going to confuse Aaron Rodgers. I disagree with myself on that one. I completely disagree. Not even that you're going to confuse Aaron Rodgers as much as it is you have to give them things like that at the line. Because if you don't, and it's straightforward, and they're living on checkdowns, you will get torched. Then at that point, your only answer is we're playing man almost every play. That way there is no check down. That way there is somebody always manned up. That becomes your only answer. If you are going to show a shell and be very straightforward to what you're showing on early downs, and this team dominates because on early downs they are as good as it gets, that doesn't make sense to play this team that way. So you just need to make those subtle tweaks. And he's talking about trusting his DBs. Look, you pay DJ Reed a lot of money. I think DJ Reed can go from playing corner to playing a safety role and find some success there. So that's the first look. The second one, I talked about cloud coverage. Very similar idea. Let's say we're in 2 deep coverage now. We're showing that 2 shell. Okay, hey, hold up. All right, that's just like the Rams got here. What if you approached it like this? And I'm gonna show you guys what I mean. What if we approached it like this? This is something that, again, the Lions don't do a lot of, but we could do this, and I think this is the week to do it. And I love this is why I love Kelvin, because he's not hard-headed at all, man. He's not. He is, how do I fit these players? So just like this, right? Lions are in this 2 deep. What you can do is you could take this safety, roll him here at the snap. All of a sudden, you're in cover 3. Roll him here at a snap, roll this guy to the middle of the field at a snap, and drop him. Now you're in cover 3, and you're just clouding it. Only thing that cloud means for a cover 3 is that a safety is playing an outside third. He's playing a cornerback's role. That's all you got to do. There's nothing overly complex with that. This corner doesn't even have to blitz. He can just sit underneath. And I think the perfect guy to do that against is DK Metcalf. Because if I come out in a 2 deep, right, and they're like, okay, what are we going to do? Maybe a quick pass on that, right? How are we going to attack that? Cool. Let's just cloud it. On the snap, my safety goes over top. My corner sits. We bracket in DK. He's got nothing there. But yet we're going to single high as he rolls over and he drops back. Now we're still in single high coverage. I can get some run support. I think things like that are the tweaks the Lions will make this weekend. I'm saying right now, we'll come back and see if that's the case. That is immediately what comes to mind, because Lions don't typically do that. And I think it makes a ton of sense against these guys. So that's how I would approach it. That's the small, it's not crazy. They're also talking about changing techniques. One thing that comes to mind, maybe when you play cover 3, press them a little bit more. Because a lot of times we kind of play half-turn cover 3, but as Kelvin said, well, now we don't have any safety help. We can get beat on double moves. Well, you're never going to have safety help in something like that, unless obviously you cloud it, then you can bracket it, and you still only have a single eye safety. You're still bracketing guy. But if you are just going to play it straightforward, maybe press him. That way you're slowing him down at the line. And a double move is now no longer jumping and biting on a route. It's instead you're just running in his hip. So if you get beat, it's kind of like getting beat in man coverage. That's the other tweak I would think of. But for me, inverting coverages and cloud coverages, you can do it. The Rams do it a lot. We can do that to other teams. And I think because I saw the Steelers have an issue with that, it's exactly what the Lions are going to do this weekend. And it's going to hopefully help them slow down DK Metcalf. It's all going to start with stopping the run, but Calvin is clearly very optimistic that they can play the run. That's how I would approach this game, and I think it's going to work really well. I think it's going to work really well, and it's something they can hold and move forward with. Do you think we make it? And how do you think our rest of the season will go? Here's the thing. All right, I'm going to sound like a guy that's not being realistic probably with this. Maybe I will. I don't know. I think we're going to win out. I think we're going to win our last 3 games. And I think we're going to be a problem in the playoffs. I really do. Now, it's contingent to me on the sense of we have to get a guy like if Graham's not going to go this weekend, we got to get Mahogany back. But if we get Mahogany, if you tell me right now that this weekend, we'll see what happens with Graham. If you told me right now this weekend, Mahogany returns, he goes to left guard, and you told me Thomas Harper returns to safety and becomes a starter, that team to me runs the table. I truly believe that team runs the table. I think we beat the Steelers this weekend. I think we get back to running the football. We're more successful running football this week. That's Mahogany's biggest strength, if anything, is he's going to push guys around. I think we'll run the ball well. Not elite, but I think we'll run it well. I think Gibbs will have a big game. We'll get back to an explosive Jahmyr Gibbs where he's popping runs. I think that'll show up this week. And I think those little tweaks in coverage will give us enough. I also tend to feel pretty good when we play teams that live on the check down. Against Dallas, they were exposing the Chiefs with that. We do pretty well. We're going to give us some stuff behind us because of it. But we tend to do a good job. Hey, linebackers, go take the flag. Just take it away. Don't give them that check down. We tend to blow things like that up. Alex is amazing in that area. I think we're going to match up pretty well with this team. I'm optimistic. We'll see if I'm right or wrong, but I'm pretty optimistic this week, more than I am in prior weeks. I was worried about the Rams. I'm pretty optimistic this week. I think we're going to handle business. I think we're going to run the table. And I'm just hoping that does enough to get us in and that we get our chance to get in. Because if we do, obviously, ideally, you want to play on the road. But like I said, yesterday's matchup, the fact that Seattle beat that Rams team the way that they did, I still took away from that. There's levels to this. I don't think Seattle's on the level of the Rams. I don't think they are. I think it was a punt return. It was a goofy 2-point conversion. But the Rams got taken out of their element, which they're typically not. But their element that they can live in is incredible. For the Lions side, I truly believe that this passing attack has been forced to expand and forced to overcome because the running game hasn't been as dominant in the past. And I think that could really, there's a world in which that could really benefit us, specifically for the playoffs. We've had to get to a spot where we've had to overcome inconsistency rushing the football. And I'm really hoping Mahogany settles that in. Because I know, here's the thing. If Mahogany came back and he was no better in pass pro than what we've had, but he's an upgrade in run blocking, at this point, that would change a lot for us. Because we're already inconsistent at left guard and pass pro. But if we can get better run blocking, and we can just add a little bit more pop to it, I'm going to feel really good about what we already can do in the passing attack. And like I said, if Thomas Harper comes back, I think Maddox built to be a safety. I think he's going to do well in a Brian Branch role. And I think Maddox played really good ball last week. And I think that Thomas Harper played really well when he was available. And he was a great free safety for us. And he was great in man coverage. I probably sound overly optimistic with the fact that we've been win-loss. We'll see if I'm right or wrong here. But this team right now, it's hard to say it because of where we're at. But this team feels as dangerous as it's felt in a while, I think, right now. I think this team is as dangerous as it gets. Like, they're capable of it because of the passing attack. To me, it's peaking right now. This is the best I've seen this passing attack. And like I said, that last week against Rams was as good as I've seen. Specifically Goff. I think he's playing at such a high level right now. And that alone gives me a ton of confidence that we got a real shot at the boys. So I do think we're going to run the table. I do think we're going to win out. And it's just going to depend on what happens with Chicago and Green Bay, likely, to get ourselves in here and what happens with the other teams. But it starts this weekend. I think we're going to handle business this weekend. The big thing that comes to mind is, can you get the Steelers down by 2 scores? Can we get them down by 2 scores and kind of comfortably win this thing? Because if you keep them in it or trailing for most of the game, now you're in a really bad spot. It's going to be hard to get them off the field consistently. So I think it's not overly pretty, but if we can get this team to fall behind a little bit, I think we're going to be in a pretty comfy position. I'm feeling like 26-17, something along those lines, maybe 27-17, 26-20. And it doesn't really matter. Just find a way. But that's kind of where I'm at with this. Maybe a lot of field goals. I think this is a game you can take field goals. I think that's fine. Because if you look at Pittsburgh, they take a lot of field goals. Like a lot of 4th and 1s. Now, I get it. They went for it a little bit, I think, in their last game, but against Miami. But they'll take field goals, 4-yard field goals. And I think in goal line, we're actually going to be pretty good, too, because goal line man was effective against these guys. You just have to communicate it. You do have to watch for Rodgers taking off in goal line situations. That's the big thing. He will take off, and he'll do a lot of design movements. And so much goes to their tight ends anyways, but I think we're going to match up well. As long as we don't get dumb holding penalties there, I think we're going to be fine. We're going to hold him out of the end zone a few times. I think we're going to get our points when we need them, and I think that'll be enough. And these same drives not putting our defense out there for 4 minutes. That's hopefully. And it's the inverse, too. We can't give up explosives. I think some of that movement and coverage will help limit some of the explosives because I don't think it'll be as straightforward. Pittsburgh also naturally doesn't take a lot of shots unless it's one-on-one. So if the Lions get to a spot where they feel comfortable with some zone, but specifically disguising it and getting to a point where, zone isn't straightforward, they're probably going to eliminate most shot opportunities for the Pittsburgh because they just won't take them. But can you force them incomplete passes off of that's going to be a challenge, not give up 8 yards? Because if you go man, you're going to get shot. If you feel like you can match up, do it. Go man. I don't think you need to blitz them, but you can. Try to speed them up. If you can take away DK and DJ Reed can lock up DK and you feel good about that, go for it. Because you could stymie this offense quickly. If you need to, that's like an emergency break glass kind of button you could get to. And I don't think it's the worst strategy in the world, to be honest with you. Just go at it. We're talking about all these other things we're going to do. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to shut this dude down. Because that's what they're going to do against cover 1. And if they throw an incomplete pass, it changes their offense dramatically immediately. So, definitely from that perspective, don't give up the bigs. And offensively, yes, we've overcame some things in the passing attack. I think the run game's going to be better this week. Obviously, the holding was a key. We looked at that Rams game. Some of it was very situational, too. I mean, double teaming St. Brown. We didn't have time to get the second one because we blew a block. A drop pass on a vertical pass to J-Mo. We left opportunities out there, but we just didn't have a big margin for error because we didn't make enough plays. We make one big play. If Amik Robertson breaks up the first 4th down and 8, we might have enough. You know what I mean? So I think it'll play out differently because of that. But I feel pretty good, man. I feel pretty good about this team. And it's weird to hit me this week, man. Thinking about the Mahogany idea and Thomas Harper, I'm like, dude, I think we're gonna be a problem. I don't think it's too little, too late. I think there's. This team just needs to get in. Just needs to get in, bro. I'm telling you. Are you going to go live during the Packers-Bears game? You should. So is that tomorrow? And what time is that? Do we know? I'm willing to do it. I just need to know when it is. Montgomery sustains drives. Don't disagree with you there. I don't disagree. From a prediction perspective, I think it's gonna be a big Gibbs game. You know me. I've been pounding that table too, man. I got no disagreements there. But I do think it's going to be a lot of Gibbs in this game. And I think he's going to have a big game. I think he's going to have a monster game, to be honest with you. I won't give up on the boy. Yes, Manu. Now, I won't see him this year. Hopefully, we don't see him this year. But we do need him to get him healthy because, I mean, it's going to be a lot of stuff that we don't know. You know what I mean? But specifically next year, like next year's the year. It's got to start rolling next year. And it could give them some options in the offseason. Late game. Well, definitely late game. I mean, but we can't be playing from behind either. Bears Packers at 8:20. Oh, it's a night game? Is it tomorrow? I'll probably have is the Miami game at that time. I want to watch Miami game. I think we're gonna win the shit. So I want to see if I'm. Oh, they play at noon. Oh, okay. I'm with it. As of now, that's the plan. All right. As of now, that's the plan. So with that, man, let's get some score predictions and then we'll get ourselves out of here. What do you guys think for this one? Give me some scores. Dude, I'm fired up, bro. I'm fired. We're gonna go handle business this weekend, man. This is all real, bro. I believe we're gonna handle business this weekend. They're gonna do it, man. And this thing's gonna be amazing. But I will say, enjoy it, man. Enjoy it because we don't know. It's not in their control anymore. So just enjoy these games. Have fun with them. 60-0. That's what I'm talking about. DNs, having eyes to flats, RPOs. I think we're gonna do a good job. Be disciplined underneath. I don't like playing soft zone and second and long. I mentioned that before. If you can force incomplete pass, get aggressive. But as I mentioned, more inverted look. Shift their shells. Trust your DBs. You're gonna give them some issues. Who wins tonight? Oklahoma or Bama? Yeah, see, dude, that one I'm not sure. Because I think Oklahoma has a higher ceiling. I think Oklahoma could be much more dangerous. But on a one-game standalone, I would take Alabama tonight. I would take Alabama. I'm a Ty Simpson believer. I know he's had some rough ones. But if you tell me like a one-game scenario, I would bet on the consistency there versus the consistency on the other side with Mateer. They're a great defense, and they've shown up in big spots this year. But I would personally roll Alabama gets the job done tonight. I think it's going to be really good. Dead serious. 28-17, 34-21. I love it. 38-27. FSU playing for the D2 Natty at 4 tomorrow. For the D2 Natty? Nah, you got to be making stuff up. Wait, are you – who? Natty? What? Hold on. I got to look at what you're talking about. I feel like that's a joke, but I want to make sure it's not a joke because FSU for the D2 Natty's crazy work. I don't know who the heck in Division II is called FSU. Ferris State. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about, okay, Ferris State. That makes sense. Ferris State's always good, bro. Ferris State's got to be like the GOAT of the GOAT, bro. Ferris State's always good, man. They win all the time, dude. Shoot, we probably will sign one of those guys, too. So that's probably worth watching because we're probably going to sign one of those guys this off. I don't know a dang person they have over there, but there's a very good chance we're signing somebody from that team. One of those UDFAs will be a Detroit Lion. You already know. One of those dudes are going to be a Lion. All right, chat. Yeah, exactly. That's the feeder system. For real. My man earlier pointed out the draft stuff. Hey, man, draft stuff is rolling. Dose of Draft. Look that up on YouTube. It's my second channel. It's also on this main channel. You can find it. And draft stuff is rolling over there. Yesterday, like I said, I dropped my mock draft, my first one. So it's a quick one. I didn't make it a long video. I'll do longer ones later, but I just want to get through every pick pretty quick. Kind of the first, just baseline. So yeah, if you want to check that out, man, if you want some draft stuff, it's going to be rolling over there. David, 30-10. I love it. Fired up, dude. Football, man. It's going to be a great football weekend, too. Ooh, Packers, Bears, man. Yeah, I'm fired up. Hey, this is good stuff, bro. Packers going to handle business. We're going to handle business. We'll be right there, dude. If they handle business and we do too, does that technically mean we control our own destiny? I feel like it does. Let me double check. I mean, that's right. Like, that's what that means, right? Hold on. Game over 80 plus. Here's the problem. Here's the problem I have. If I'm Pittsburgh, I can't let that happen. I can't play that way. But I think if there's any attention on, hey, don't give up the vertical to Jamal, get out underneath. St. Brown's going to eat. But based on what I've seen, the way that they play teams, I think Jameson probably has the biggest day. I don't think they have a good matchup for him. So I wouldn't be against that. Playoff simulator. We do for sure. Okay, I was trying to make sure there wasn't like another team that maybe I'm missing that like kind of gets in the way. There's not, right? Because Green Bay's the 7th seed right now. Dallas isn't catching us. Seattle Rams will be in. One of those two will be in. San Francisco's, those two teams will take the next spot. Yeah, and then it's Tampa Bay, Carolina. One of those teams will win it. The other team won't get in. Likely. And I mean, obviously we have to win a game, so that can't work out that way. So yeah, we would control. So in 1 week we could control our own destiny. Yeah, so we'll pull it up real quick. Because we basically kind of know where they're gonna come from. Right? Like we're gonna get 3 playoff teams from the NFC West. And it just depends on what order. Maybe San Fran could fall out of there, I guess, if they just like lost every game, but they're probably going to get 3 teams in, and that puts us at 6, because you're going to get division winners from NFC East and NFC South. Neither of these, Dallas doesn't have a good enough record, and we beat them. Carolina and Tampa, they only have 7 wins. If we win out, obviously they can't get to 11. So and we beat Tampa too. So even if Carolina, ideally Carolina would jump them, and then Tampa Bay would fall down, and we'd have their tiebreaker. The only thing would be the NFC North. And because of the amount of games you have to win, if we were to win this game, we're at 9-6. And if Green Bay was to beat Chicago, they are at 10-5. So immediately that puts us 1 game behind with 1 game left against them. And now Chicago could lose to San Fran. But it really doesn't matter at that point. I think the only thing that would matter then is, I guess, if San Fran beat Chicago, let's say we beat Minnesota, but what if we lost to Pittsburgh? I think then it could still be alive, because then if we beat Chicago, head to head, maybe the only concern there would be like if a team like Carolina couldn't get there. I don't think. Does Carolina play Tampa again? Yeah, they play them this weekend. So if Tampa Bay beats Carolina and puts Carolina in the wild card race, they can't catch 10 wins. So then the only other team you would have to worry about is, I mean, I guess there wouldn't be another team to have to worry about. That'd be it. So yeah, I guess, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward, I guess. I mean, the only thing that would throw this off, and so now you could afford a loss. You would just need then San Francisco to beat Chicago, and then you'd have to beat Chicago. If we lose and they tie, dude, that don't talk like that. The Packers not allowed to have 2 ties. Wait a minute. So let's look at it like this though. Let's say the Bears win, and then if the Bears win, I think things get kind of dicey here. And if we beat the Steelers, the Bears beat San Francisco. Even if we beat the Bears, they'd win the division unless the Packers rolled. Because then the Packers could jump us, right? Or is that wrong? That doesn't seem right. Is that right? So they're saying oh yeah, okay. Yeah, we both be 11-5. So at that point, if Green Bay were to lose to Chicago, we need Green Bay to lose another game. Green Bay has to lose another one. Or what if they tied? Wait, hold up. 10-5-2. Wait, so you're telling me 10-5-2 is better than 11-6? I feel like that's wrong, bro. There's no way that 2 ties are better than a win. Like let's keep it about. There's no way that 2 ties are better than a win. How does that happen? What are we even talking about here? What is it? Yeah, dude, that's honestly blasphemy, to be honest with you. That shouldn't even be legal, bro. There's no way that's. Come on, man. That's crazy work. All right, don't tie. That's crazy work that could work out like that. That's dumb, actually. If you, yeah, we need a Green Bay win. I mean, there's a path, but the path is much more difficult if Green Bay doesn't win. If Green Bay wins, I mean, I guess it's really like this. If Green Bay wins tomorrow, we immediately control our own destiny for a playoff spot. That story. Well, no, they'd be 10-5-2, not 11-5-2. 11-5-2 equals 11-6. Okay, I'm with you there. But if they got 10 wins, how do they get above us? That's crazy work, right? Like, I can't be the only one thinking that doesn't make any sense. I think you're right on that, Steve. That math makes sense to me. But yeah, if Green Bay wins tomorrow, immediately we control our own destiny. We win out and we make the playoffs. There we go. Look at that. So they're saying it's equal, but because they beat us both times, they would have tiebreaker. That's crazy. That's a crazy way to look at it. That's crazy, bro. You won 10, they won 11, but you tied a couple. So you get the nod. What? I guess they're not getting the nod. They're just saying it's the same. That's still crazy. That doesn't make sense. I don't know. What is it? I don't know. Anyway, it's not gonna happen. Put on your cheese head. Never will happen. Never will happen. But I'll be rooting. I'll be going for him, man. And I'm telling you, I said this at the beginning, how amazing would it be to have the playoff spot come down to Lions at Chicago? Like, dude, that is as good as it gets, bro. That would be the most nerve-wracking game for sure from jump, bro. I'd be shaking from jump. Ooh, I'd be shaking. No. All right. Anyways, we're going to get out of here. Micah, bro, he's a game changer. I know, dude. It's a bad time for it to happen, honestly. It changes the game against Chicago. But if it were to happen that Green Bay were to win a division, I'd feel a lot better about playing Green Bay in the playoffs without Micah. Like say Green Bay wins division, we have to go on the road as the bottom seed to go to Green Bay. Pretty good about that without Micah. Yeah, the truth. I was looking for you, the truth. I thought you were going to see an insight on the Steelers, man. I was waiting for it. But yeah, hey, I appreciate y'all coming in. We're going to end it here, man. Go check out Dose of Draft if you want to see a mock, and I will be back tomorrow with something. All right, we out of here, man. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy football tonight. We out.